All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast, episode number 35, Toxic Friendships. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I'm here with the crew. That's right, folks. We are stacked. I got Goose.
Yep.
Heck, you can't see. Manny and Gabe. All right, if you are new, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Every Tuesday morning, we drop a new episode for your listening pleasure. Don't forget to download and subscribe. For more information on us, go to jimmyleevelez.com. All right, in this episode, Toxic Friendships, we discuss the topic of toxic friendships, the signs to look for to determine you are in a toxic relationship, our personal experiences with toxic people, social media and toxicity, and our recommendations to people involved in a toxic relationship. We wrap the episode up with quotes from John Mark Green and Yvonne Pierre. So, if you're new, I start off with a definition, normally from dictionary.com, but today's going to be from the Huffington Post. Toxic friendship by the Huffington Post is defined as a toxic relationship drains the life from you, damages your self-esteem, or kills your dreams.
True.
I'm sorry, but I like almost like when I was typing this, I was like laughing. I'm like, this is like the most harsh definition by far in this entire existence of this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So today we have a story from Goodreads.com, and the author is Bryant McGill. All right, so he just defines what a toxic relationship was. So I found that, I know we read a definition from the Huffington Post, but the way this guy describes it was so spot on. He not only just gives you the surface definition, but he kind of describes it in detail, and it's like
Characteristics of it.
yes, and he crushes it. So I figured it was worthy of the podcast. So Bryant defines it as toxic relationships are dangerous to your health. They will literally kill you. Stress shortens your lifespan. Even a broken heart can kill you. There is an undeniable mind-body connection. Your arguments and hateful talk can land you in the emergency room or in the morgue. You are not meant to live in a fever of anxiety, screaming yourself hoarse in a frenzy of dreadful, panicked fight or flight that leaves meant to live like animals tearing one another to shreds. Don't turn your hair gray. Don't carve a roadmap of pain into the sweet wrinkles on your face. Don't lay in the quiet with your heart pounding like a trapped, frightened creature. For your own precious and beautiful life, and for those around you, seek help or get out before it is too late. This is your wake-up call. So it's really like, I guess, in reference to someone who's in a toxic friendship relationship. But for the people who have never been in a toxic relationship, that is a very interesting way to look at it. And I feel like for someone to define it in such detail, you have had to have been in one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely describe
for him
maybe
to
one that he was in or something.
Yeah, because he characterizes it as a character, a creature trapped in a cage,
Right.
and you screaming so much that your voice is hoarse, and the wrinkles
descriptive.
in your face. Yeah, it's just like you're picturing everything this guy's describing. So either Bryant is a really good writer, which it sounds like he is. He can vividly describe things that places this like awesome picture in your mind. And he's obviously artistic and eloquent in his writing, but I would go as far as to say that he's been in one. I don't know if it's to this deep of one, but Bryant, very well described. And then he gives like almost like a warning. This is your wake up call. So if you're going through this is not a normal thing, which he gets into detail too, by the way. And I know it seems so, okay, this seems a bit over the top. They will, I quote, they will literally kill you. Stress shortens your lifespan. Even a broken heart can kill you. I know that sounds like all like, well, and then, you know, you could probably choose other words, but it's true.
Yeah.
the stress level. You see
Yeah.
people who are constantly stressed out, constantly whatever. People having heart attacks. I say, I think
early
the
age.
most heart, the day that the most heart attacks happen is like on a Monday morning between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. is when literally, it's for males, and it's I think it's like 65% of heart attacks or something like that. I could be
what?
butchering from work.
Stress.
Like going into work, like knowing
You're
they gotta
at
go.
work and I guess you get there, you're so stressed out.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, they have a heart attack. From
Wow.
I guess from
That's
going from one
crazy.
relaxed mode to just like boom, here we have a whole
Yeah.
week of this. Like I just started kind of. I don't know. I never had a heart attack on a Monday morning, but
Some people Friday afternoon, they're like, "Oh, I'll push this off till next week." Next thing they come to work and have a pile
they're
of work.
overwhelmed
Yeah.
with
It's even like
Just can't help.
like obviously the presidency is an extreme job. But like you can see it like somebody who first went in and like I mean like I think Barack Obama, like he went in, he looked normal. Now he looks like years older.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
age
yeah,
you.
Even
It'll
after like the first
definitely age you,
presidency, like
Yeah.
his first run.
because his wife still looks the same.
Yeah, and
That is so
it's
true.
like
Yeah.
he has like
She looks
silver
amazing.
hair right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
He had like dark hair when he first started,
You know,
and he
yeah.
looked young, had no wrinkles. Actually, just looked like
Yeah, stress and pressure will age you.
yeah. And regardless, it doesn't matter. I mean, he's known to be, I guess, one of the smoothest presidents that we had, or very charismatic.
Yeah, that's how
And-
he handles things.
And that's how. But even the smoothest guy, quote unquote, you could tell the stress
Yeah, yeah.
is just sitting on his shoulders, or
Well, it eats at you from the inside out. You can see it comes out from
Yeah.
here.
yeah. Well, he also smokes, right?
It'd be-
he
it'd be
smokes.
better.
He smokes
Newports
cigarettes.
on the rooftop of the White House.
Well, yeah. Oh,
Multiple.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Packs.
Is it Newport's really?
Yeah, he did. He did when he first started. There's pictures of him.
no, I
doing-
think he still does.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I
From
remember
time
his
to time.
pictures on the rooftop. He was smoking like
He still
Newports and
smokes,
stuff. Yeah.
No way.
I think it's like, isn't it illegal to take a picture of him?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is. I think, and not just Barack Obama. I think a
Yeah.
president. Like you have to get
Probably.
permission to take a picture of a president
Because they scrutinize everything.
because
I'm sure.
they do something. Now, if it's like original art, if you like draw it or something, that's one thing. But I don't know. I could have totally just made that up. But for some
Sounded
reason, I felt like that just like
Yeah,
stuck with me
wow.
there.
Well, he ain't stressed no more.
Well,
He's not going to be stressed.
I don't know.
I don't know about all that though. He's got
The level of stress, I think you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
But I think presidents, what's crazy, and I know this has nothing to do with, stress levels or whatever. Actually, it does. They get forever paid like $500,000 a year or something like that.
I
Forever.
think it's like 300.
Or whatever.
And then they have full,
Hundreds of thousands of full benefits.
but they don't pay for anything else. Like they don't
Yeah.
pay for like anything.
so that should
Yeah,
relieve a
full
little bit of
security.
stress there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can never drive a car again.
Nah. But you think about Bill Clinton when he left, he aged, but now he looks the same as he left.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean, that was what 10 years ago or whatever.
He looks 10 years older.
12
Bill
years
Clinton?
ago? Yeah.
Bill Clinton looks awful.
Horrible.
Yeah, he looks run
He's
down.
like a skeleton.
Yeah. Looks very frail.
This is terrible.
It's scary. All right, so we'll move into the second portion, and it's RealSimple.com put together a list of 7 signs you're in a toxic friendship. And I grabbed the top 3, and they list them as this. So number 1 is they need you for absolutely everything. Number 2, you dread seeing them, and you're relieved when they leave. Number 3, you're both in a constant conflict, and not just the obvious kind. I just got stressed out reading that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I just feel like I'm being drug around here. Wow.
Feel
They
bad
need
for
you for
person.
absolutely everything. Oh my gosh, that's like a child.
Yeah.
And a child's not even in a negative way. A child's like, all right, I know you do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm
You
your parent. I
expect
want to
it.
help you. Yeah. But a grown person
Yeah.
that they
Can't
need
wait
you
for them
for
to leave,
absolutely
though?
everything.
But then you can't wait for them to leave. Like they come, you're like, all right, hurry up and leave now. Like,
Yeah, and you're
that's
relieved when they
stressful.
leave.
Yeah.
What kind of friendship is? Oh, that's obviously it's a toxic one.
Toxic one.
Yeah, it's bad.
That is brutal.
Someone's
You
taking
dread seeing
advantage
them.
of someone.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
That's-
hey.
obviously, if one can't do anything for themselves, and they need that person, it's complete taken advantage of. Also,
Yeah, I was listening to Joe Osteen going into work the other day, and he was talking about a friendship that he had where the guy slowly felt like this guy was taking advantage of him and his finances or whatever. Every time this guy had a problem, he got in a pinch, quote, he would talk to Joel and he's like, I don't know what to do, what we're going to do. I got a young family, whatever. So Joel, helped him out, I guess, cut him a little check or whatever. Second time, he's like, Joel, we got the holidays coming up, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z is happening. And, if I don't make this car payment, they're going to, repo the car, blah, blah, blah. And Joel, like, he did what he could to help him out, whatever. So then the third time, and I'm totally, like, paraphrasing this entire scenario. But anyway, just so you get the idea. The third time he comes to me and he's like, Joel, the money's just not coming in. What are we going to do? And Joel's like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know what I'm going to do and to step away from this relationship because every time you come to me, it's a problem or you need you need money from me, blah, blah, blah. And he said, exited the friendship, and the guy gave him a complete guilt trip of what kind of friend are you kind of thing, blah, blah, blah.
Nice.
Meanwhile, right, if you're actually looking on the outside,
turn it around
if you turn it around, it's like, what kind of friend are you?
Yeah.
Who's completely taking advantage and exploiting
Yeah.
your friends.
Trying to use their sympathy against them.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
absolutely. I mean, the whole that's just obviously a whole nother level of abuse. That's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
malicious. That's like, dude, that's a scary kind of when they talk toxic friendships. That's like a scary level where you have no there's no empathy for another person. That's almost like narcissistic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like a level of narcissism where it's like you truly believe you're be above another human, which is very scary. That's what when they say someone commits murder and whatever, people don't actually grasp the value of a life.
Yeah.
And when someone does that, they then place themselves more valuable than whatever. But that's a total blanket statement and not to take away from anything that's ever happened in history. I'm just saying that's how it's described. But anyway, so have you guys ever been in a toxic friendship before? And did you know you were in one, or you just kind of like walked into it? And like, what in the world was that? Like a whirlwind?
I don't think a lot of people know they're in a toxic relationship till after the fact, right? Like you've kind of reached a tipping point in the relationship.
Yeah.
Because you talk about it took, Joel Osteen 3 times to figure out. Like, man, every time this guy comes, it's at first you feel bad, and you don't think you're in, quote unquote, a toxic relationship until you're in it, and you're like, damn, this is all right. Enough of this nonsense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think I've been to the point where I completely dislike this person. Like, I need to completely remove myself and never talk to them again. But there are definitely relationships where you just kind of you go your separate ways, slowly but surely. You just go away slowly.
Just drift apart.
Yeah, you drift apart.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's on purpose.
Yeah.
You drift apart.
But so going with that, I actually think that actually happens normally when two people grow apart, and not necessarily giving it the label of toxic.
Yeah.
Which is a very dramatic word for what I'm about to talk about. There are people who are really in toxic, abusive relationships.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about this at this current moment. What I'm saying is when you're in a friendship that's not growing
Yeah.
and it's not going anywhere, you're not going. And I mean, it has nothing to do with a like a partner. I'm talking about like a friendship, like like your buddy, and it is not growing. That is just as bad as anything else. That's going backwards. And the reason why I say that is because the point is not to continue. You guys have memories for a reason, and they're memories for a reason.
Yeah.
It's now time to create new ones, time to move forward, expand, grow, do something. And I'm not talking about like, every relationship you start up a new business or something like that. I'm saying challenge each other, do something different, switch things up. I remember Cat Williams back in the day when he first got started, back in the early 2000s when he came out on DVDs, when everyone he got his big break, I guess. I remember him talking about like on his birthday every year, he would literally evaluate all his friends and say, you know, like if you didn't do anything different that year, or if you didn't try to do anything, you weren't trying to, he's like, if you weren't trying to stack up and get a crib, you weren't trying to stack up and get a new car or build a relationship with, and get married or something like that, he like did away with you. He's like, I'm not trying to have my birthday at the same club, at the same whatever every single year. If we did it at this club this year, next year we're going to bigger and better. He's like, he's constantly trying to progress. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Doing different things in growth in that way. If you guys get around, all you do is reminisce. That's what I kind of mean.
Like the kind of stuck in the past. I think it was like
Yeah.
you literally there's no other conversation other than stuff you always just did.
Y'all better start a softball team or something. You better. Yeah. So I don't know. It's tough, and not in a negative way. I guess. And I mean this in the most sincere way. Whatever relationship you were in some level of it that didn't work out, some level was obviously toxic.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to the definition maybe that was described here tonight.
Yeah.
But I mean just in the fact that it just didn't work. Right? I mean, it doesn't work.
There
Somewhere there was
of incompatibility or something.
yes,
whatever
exactly. There was somewhere where there wasn't like a match.
Yeah.
Let's just say, and it didn't work out. And what happens, I believe, is you get into these relationships, and you get. I think you get comfortable, and when in this comfort, naturally people like comfort. People naturally don't like change.
Yeah.
So then, because then why? Because then obviously they feel uncomfortable. So to avoid this, they just stay in this relationship that's not working out, right?
Yeah.
And kind of just tumbling around and just kind of going through, oh, maybe things will change or things will get different kind of thing. And it never does. But because you feel like, okay, now, well, if I leave this relationship, now I got to start all over. I got to rebuild. I have so much time invested in,
Yeah,
and
that's
now my
exactly.
family is connected to their family kind of thing. And it's like, this is a disaster. I'm not leaving this. And it's almost abusive in your own way. You're doing it to yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're locking down yourself. I'm not, also not describing every relationship. Obviously there's other extremes, beyond that, but I'm just saying, like, in general, why sometimes people, because I did this, it's almost like a lazy, like, oh no, man, it's gotta work out. This is like, I'm not trying to start this whole thing all over and get the ball rolling, and but guess what, dude? And I think it's one of those things. Sometimes, like Manny said, you don't realize you're in it.
Or it's things like you've been around somebody long enough. It's like, okay, that's just how they are, and you just kind of like
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, it's just it is what it is, and
Right.
you're just like, okay. So they come around and just like, okay, you know how they are. You just kind of let them say what they're saying and keep on going.
Oh, that's just how they are. It's all right.
I mean, that's toxic in its own sense.
Yeah.
Like, they are who they are, and you just
kinda
kind of you
feeding
let it
into
be.
it, yeah.
You're just essentially adding fuel to the fire.
change them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah. Well, and that's the point, though. For some reason, some people feel that they will.
That eventually they'll see the light or something.
And to some extent, maybe you will. Everyone has an influence on another
Sure.
person, right?
Yeah.
To some extent. But when we're talking about someone's conditioning, kind of like what we were talking about last week, and someone's paradigm, and they were, have this level of thinking for years beyond your 2-month relationship, it's going to take a lot more to recondition them to have a separate kind of paradigm for them to then act and navigate their own lives a totally different way than where they came from. It's not to say that it can't be done. It absolutely can be done. It's just, it's going to be a lot quicker than, however long your relationship. If you had a relationship with somebody for a whole year, right? And you guys are 2 grown adults. You guys are both 21 years old to whatever, 25. You're fighting 24 years of conditioning versus your 1 little year of a relationship. You might think that may be long and you can change them forever, but I'm sorry. That thing is deep within the core of who they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why it's called a paradigm. This is stuff that they're bringing from early childhood to adulthood, and whether it was buried deep down and they don't even know it even exists there anymore, it can get brought back up in a snap of a finger, and your whole year invested in this person, all of a sudden, what happened, boss? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think we talked about this before. Me, Goose, Heck. I don't know if it was somebody else. We're talking about like the need to like save a bad boy or whatever, or what makes like a bad boy. Oh, we're like, well, what does make like the bad boy attractive or whatever to females or whatever it is? And we're like trying to come up with all these things. And like one of them was like, I think they might. I don't know. You would have to ask someone who's attracted to that, but. Our one of our developed ideas was they feel maybe that they can save this person, and I don't mean like save them like they're drowning in water, but metaphorically yes, like they can actually save them. I can turn this around.
Turn it around.
Yeah.
Change them.
Yeah, and sometimes they do, but the
I can wrangle the bull
likelihood
type thing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But the likelihood of that actually happen is slim to none. But I think that was the conclusion. Maybe a not so educated conclusion, but it was just kind of like one of those things. I don't know. Maybe that's what you think. Maybe you think you can change it, but that's what I'm saying. You're fighting years of conditioning. That's where we fall when it comes to we fall to realize that in relationships that we come in and it's like, yeah, but we had a bond. We pinky sweared, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have promises together. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys know. I know Goose does. I think Manny does. Know Ty Lopez?
Yeah.
He has the guy from the 67 Steps or whatever.
Yeah.
And he talks about when you're building a quote unquote empire or some level of business or whatever it is, to go back to apparently there's studies done that you can create the strongest business with if it started or whatever created by people you grew up with or grew up in the same town or something because you understand each other's conditioning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So if that's an actual case study, like think about that. That's an actual case study. The strongest, because then you get it. You guys get each other. Like we're all, except for Gabe, we're all from Bristol. And there's some things that no one even has to say, and we're all just like, yeah. We would all know what someone's talking about in a conversation because we're from Bristol and we get it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if we're trying to explain it to Gabe and Gabe from Philadelphia, we're from Bristol, Pennsylvania, and we're trying to explain to him, he's like, oh, okay, but looking at us like we're all,
I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
yeah, strangers, like what in the world was that? That doesn't even make sense. Or what people call like inside jokes, stuff like that. So there's actual case studies that show bonds are much stronger from if you're from around the same region or whatever in the world. That's why sometimes people say like, oh, they're high school sweethearts and they're actually married. I always find that amazing.
Yeah.
But I guess this report supports that.
Well, I mean, you're also at a young age conditioned to just accept that person for who they are. So you never really gain that toxicity that you talk about because it just becomes a part of the norm rather than you looking at it objectively and saying, man, this is a problem. You're just like, it's been like this forever. And you just kind of keep it moving.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you have no experience.
Right.
You haven't experienced
Right. You don't
something
know, right,
different.
exactly.
You don't know no better.
You don't know the better.
You don't know no better.
Yeah.
No, but that's true. That's almost scary. Like you never actually tested the waters. Like you just, that's life.
It's a normal routine.
Which is I just why usually like that type of situation, like people go to college and people go crazy now, like they break up whatever because now they finally start experiencing stuff outside of that type of relationship.
Yeah, and that just goes into like experiences, right? That we have. Just think back the 4 years, how much you actually learned about yourself in 4 years, 5 years at Temple, right? Compared to which we learned a lot about ourselves from let's just say the age of 10 to 17, but in 4 years also because not only are you an quote unquote an adult legally by age, but
You're out on your own.
Exactly, at that specific point you're out on your own, and that does a lot to someone's maturity. Whether they want to or not, you're gonna learn something.
Yeah.
Budgeting, food, appreciation.
Well, and people.
Yeah.
Like you learn
Cultures.
You learn people, cultures, but you learn through experiences. Like your parents, they usually navigate you towards, oh, why don't you hang out with this person or hang out with that person? And
Right.
your parents always pushed you to somebody they felt comfortable with. In college, you had no choice but to figure it out on your own. And that kind of changes the game, obviously.
So moving on, what about a toxic relationship virtually. I know that sounds creepy saying that, but like social media, and this is what I mean. So we're just talking about Facebook or whatever, because every Monday night when we do the podcast, we put a Facebook Live thing or whatever, and you're friends with a lot of people on the internet, right? And for people that you grew up with, doesn't matter who they are, you're friends with a lot of people, and you always have. I don't care who you are, because everyone I talk to and interact with, there's always that one or two people who are constantly on your news feed with something negative or something, the most opinionated thing. You're like, how in the world are we friends on Facebook? Like, I can't believe I'm still, and for some reason, people get offended when you unfriend them, right? Do you guys remember, I think it was MySpace. Was it MySpace? I forget what it was. It was one of these social media things where you picked your top five.
It was MySpace.
Yeah, you picked your top
the top
five
8 or something
friends.
like that.
Yeah, or top 8, whatever it was. People would get in fist fights with their siblings and best friends because they got taken out of the top 5 or 8
Oh,
of the.
really?
Yeah. It was like a real thing.
Wow. I didn't have it.
I didn't have it either. Actually, I had it, and then when they did that ranking thing, or I don't think I ever participated, or when they did it, that's when I disabled my account or something like that for other reasons. But
I actually think I had it for like 30 days, and I literally closed it down. It was like completely pointless.
Well, I had a toxic relationship with Facebook. It was new when we were in school.
yeah.
And
That's when it came out.
That's when it came out. It was in like 04, 05, I guess. Anyway, long story short, the same situation happened. I was in a relationship, right? And the relationship ceased to exist for a day and a half. So I said, all right, let's change that status.
Oh, yeah.
Single. Oh, man, backfired something serious. And guess what? I'm out. Never. I'm not on any social media. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on the Twitter. I'm not on the Gram. I'm not snapping nobody. I'm out. I'm like old man Smithers, man. I don't know anything about social media, but I got out of a toxic relationship because immediately that one single click changed, and it was fact at the time.
Yeah.
Changed that. It blew up in my face. I said never again. I went and disabled it. I got out of that relationship ASAP. Yeah. And then I'm not talking about the one with the person. I'm talking about the one with the computer. Yeah,
he got off of that. He got off that app.
Yeah, I got off that. I haven't used it since. I haven't turned back and never even thought about going on. But I got out of that. Speaking.
It's interesting. It's very interesting how, look at this. Social media has completely changed the dynamic of a real relationship between two people.
Oh my god.
Like legitimately, because a lot of stuff is now made public. Before all these conversations that you would have were very private. Pictures that you would share with one another, very private, right? Yep. Or you would, then that's when group chats and whatever came out, and we had flip phones when all this stuff was going on. I mean, we didn't have
it wasn't
any
all
of this.
interconnected. Even when you had it was strictly on the computer.
Yeah, it was still everything was still segmented or fragmented. It was fragmented memories that you somehow put together and sewed a blanket out of as your friendship or whatever, and that now the whole world gets to see. So now you're not only worried about what your spouse is doing, not worried, but posting, or I should just say significant other. But now what's everyone else going to think now? So now there's this other element that's now involved.
Sure. Yeah.
In
whole another letter of like social media anxiety.
Yeah, and people get to comment on this now. So now people are also putting their opinion on whatever you're saying, where normally in a face-to-face encounter, 99% of people wouldn't say anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So if they're saying something like, let's just say, the way you and your significant other talk to one another, and they say it or whatever in public, they're like, oh, well, we didn't say nothing. Da, da, da.
Yeah, exactly.
But they see you guys arguing on social media. Oh, all of a sudden they're throwing out all kinds of advice, and everyone turns into Dr. Phil. A couple people are always there with the scriptures. No, I'm serious. It's obnoxious.
It is.
But first of all, I don't know why people are doing that anyway. But that's where I go back to this whole social media abuse, because that's what it is. Is you go on your news feed and you're like, this absurd things people post, and you go back to who you are. I'm like, who am I? Like, how did we ever become friends? Or how did we? Not that okay, maybe I understand how we became friends, but how is this still like a viable relationship or something that is still? So they came out with this awesome feature on Facebook, whereas you don't unfriend them, you just unfollow them. So now you're still
Right.
friends with them, but you see
Dude.
nothing they post,
Right.
and it's amazing.
Oh, there's even a different version of that too. It's like you can change the level of friendship that you have with them. You
Oh,
can,
really?
You can just, I forget what it's called because whatever.
deep
But
in the settings?
But it's under like where you're like friendship and follow and stuff like that. There's another section on there that says like you can just make them an acquaintance.
Oh wow! So it takes off like
So
the privileges
so
and stuff like
it's
that.
not even
So
having
you
friends.
won't see
You're
like
not my
if they post
friend.
a bunch of pictures. You won't see like you won't see all the posts, but there'll
Yeah,
still
I
be a
do.
friend.
Yeah,
of
I know what Jim's talking about. There's like people just
So
put
it's
up
along the same
nonsense.
lines,
And it's like and having like all these other people read or see what you're posting. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like,
The worst though is the relationship like status things, man. People,
See people
that's it.
changing that.
I'm through with this person.
People throwing, like, vague
Blah, blah, blah,
insults
blah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, it's like, "Oh, you're the love of my life," and you're like, "Dude, what in the
or not-
world just happened?"
The best is like when they start posting pictures of like they're this week they're with this person, and then 2 weeks later it's like you don't see them, and all of a sudden there's like another person, and like what happened?
What happened so
I'm in
fast?
love. No, what are you doing? Stop that. Save that.
Yeah, yeah. But there's also like going back to the original concept though. What I was saying for social media, or what I thought was going to be like talked about, was the abuse of someone's opinion constantly in your face, like social media. So as soon as you get on, like you're just trying to see, like where out friends or relatives are up to, whatever, and not even just once a day, multiple times in one day, this person's either talking about politics, their job that they don't like.
So they're all over the place.
Yeah. So it's not just
There's
one
negativity.
certain thing, but it's just like boom, 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 and it's like, oh my gosh, you're like
Enough.
beating
Like
a dead
constant
horse
ranting
here. It's
about
like yes, it's
everything.
like we get it's ranting. It's like rant after rant after rant.
Yeah, but if they do it every day, you're not ranting. You're actually just complaining, and you just need to get a new life.
Yeah, that's true.
Because ranting is when you go off
When you don't normally
when you
do.
don't normally do. That's ranting, but that's just a complainer needs to go somewhere.
Well, that's a
Yeah.
toxic friendship because
Yeah,
we're
right,
actually
right.
technically friends on Facebook, or
Okay.
we follow each other on Instagram or something like that. And it's like, status of it's just the various kinds, but some of them are crazy, some of them are humorous, some of them are completely unnecessary. But but that's what I mean. It's an
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster with this person. One day they're up, they love everything. Next day they're down, they hate everything. And it's like, dude, you're so all over the place that it's getting me anxious when I see your name pop up on my newsfeed. Seriously, because I'm like, what am I gonna read now?
Because 5 minutes later, you're gonna see another post.
With that happened a lot, especially with the election and politics, whatever your views are.
I'm sure a lot of
there were a
people-
lot of people that were like, and you talked about it with social media, that things you usually don't say out there, you kind of just post and don't think about the ramifications. A lot of people put stuff out there, and there are a lot of folks that I spoke to, like, oh, I'm no longer friends with this person, or no longer friends with that person,
Yeah.
and it was just a matter of just their views.
Yeah.
Neither is right or wrong. Your views are your views, but
Yeah.
and they were like, I just didn't agree with this person, and they would have never have known that about that person
Yeah.
until
Post.
they posted something,
Yeah.
or they decided to comment. A lot of times you want to comment on something, and you're around a group of people, and you're like, oh, this isn't the time or the place. Well, for some reason, social media allows it to be like, yeah, this is the time and the place with a humongous forum and a great audience to all see and partake in
And that's
the
the
same
thing. It's
thing.
not only just the people you know, because it goes
Right.
through like everybody else comments that
Sure,
they all see it
exactly.
too. So it's like it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so the social media relationships, when they go toxic quick. I mean, they turn into just full blown acid, and they're done. It erodes very quickly.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we're going back to what we talk about all the time, the microwave society.
Yeah.
Everything wants everything yesterday and decides very quick, and it's a fast moving place
Exactly.
we
And
live
even
in.
the thing that's has such a level of toxicity at this point doesn't matter in 2 weeks anyway. It's on to the next thing that's the next vitriol.
Dude,
thing.
that's what's like scary though, because it's like what he's saying. People are like legit losing friendships
Yeah.
over something they said or
Something
their
that-
opinion on something.
that I mean you have disagreement that okay, whatever, get over it. 2 weeks later you don't care anymore. But it's like people take that to heart and just disregard that for quote unquote friendship, whether it's actually real or not.
Yeah, sure. I think another thing that I noticed with Manny saying that and social media is people are, since we live in this quick whatever, society, the judgment, and I do this myself. I'm sure everyone here is guilty of it. When you see someone post something or say something, and you're there with a quick judgment, and it's like, I'm not one to say anything on any of those. I just read them. I say all this stuff in my head that I won't post or I won't comment on it.
Exactly.
But there are people out there with what they call trigger fingers,
Immediately,
Twitter fingers, whatever it's called. But so they're immediately boom, just stirring the poo, like it's, nicely said. And it's like, why? First of all, why that post ever come up? Second of all, why? There's no, okay, so here's the thing. I guess it all boils down to there's no real true etiquette of communication when it comes to the social media platform.
Nope.
Because it's just, people are on this thing, you can say whatever you want because it's freedom of speech.
Yeah.
But then there's also, people don't realize that there's, boundaries that not even that don't need to be, or that can't be crossed. Sometimes it's unnecessary. So now you just put that up there, and I guess it just wasn't thought out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, do you have the same person? The reason why I can say that is because they're apologizing for what they just posted or said.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
The problem with that too is it's same as text messages. Have you ever read a text message and you read it literally, and you might not have, there's no inflection in a person's voice, there's no feeling behind it, so you read it literally.
Yeah.
And you and then all of a sudden in your mind, if you don't like what they're saying, you frame it as like they're coming at you.
Yeah.
Right.
When they could be saying the most positive thing in the world, from their mouth to your ears. But how you're reading it on the screen is like, holy crap, that's like, damn, maybe this person's rude as hell. I forget what it was, but I had the same situation come up, text message, and I was pissed. Like, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you wrote. And no, you were taking it literal. And that's the problem.
You're
with
reading
that.
with emotion that's in your head at the
Correct,
moment.
right.
Yeah.
You're
Right,
projecting
right.
your feelings on what they're saying, and that has nothing to do with what they really
Because
meant.
even when you're angry, right? Let's just say you're angry and you read a text, you're gathering all that energy into reading that, and no matter what it is, it could be 100% positive. You still read it like with an angry face is, and it will do nothing for you. But text messages and incorrect readings are hilarious. Plus, then now you got also the people who have autocorrect. So when they hit send before they even read, because everyone's such on the move and got so many places to be at once, they're just hitting send and stuff. And sometimes, that text message goes out there and it says something that's like, okay, that's
Crazy.
Totally off.
You ever go to that website? What's that website like?
think it
Funny
is.
text. Or,
I know it's something autocorrect or whatever.
Yeah, funny autocorrect or something like that.
Some of them it looks like they're
.net.
definitely like fake, but I mean,
Yeah. Some of them you could tell they're like totally set up.
yeah, because there's no way in heck that any of the stuff's gonna be autocorrected that way. But some of the stuff, yeah, it's fun. Like
Yeah, I
that
like
is-
kind of rely on it to autocorrect my actual spelling, and now it comes up with like totally. I was like, no, this is not what I'm spelling. Like, get frustrated, and the dictionary's not picking it up properly.
Like the word frustrated. You don't really know how to spell that.
No, it's FU straighted.
Yes. All right. So were you guys ever around the wrong people, as in a bad influence growing up? So I can kick this off. This has nothing to do with me being a kid, but early adulthood. My first semester at Temple University, I was kind of all over the place. I didn't know how to gather, control my energy. I would say in a very nice way. And I was just kind of like all over the place, just doing all, like doing crazy stuff to my body, being like, I would stay up late, wake up early, stay up just dumb, and constantly tired, and then crush my body with like caffeine in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, what in the world are you doing to yourself? Staying up late, hanging out with the wrong people, coming home is like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. And it caught up to me really fast. But that wasn't where I came from. That wasn't like what I'd known. And once I stopped hanging out with that specific crowd, all of it changed. My grades went up. I became a different kind of person, whatever. And I went back to managing, as best as I could, a more balanced life. But it was literally within, I'm talking weeks of interacting with, let's just say they're not bad people or bad influence, just personalities that didn't interact with me very well. Because some people can, conduct themselves in certain ways or whatever and be all right with it. But as soon as I hit that, boom, it was like a almost like a chemical reaction, like it's like an explosion, boom, and some people won't react to that at all, and it's instant. And this person has like an energy, had an energy about them that was it was charismatic in a way. It was
Very
just like-
infectious. It
it was like, all right, yeah, whatever, let's just do it. Let's go. You know what I mean? Let's go out and let's hang out. It's like Tuesday night, and you're like, dude, I got like class in the morning. I gotta go to the gym. But no, you're doing all this knucklehead stuff, and then wondering why you're tired and blasting your body with caffeine in the morning, energy drinks and coffee, and you're just like, oh man, this is bad. But anyway, so. And like I said, it was more of, my fault for being so influenced. But that was a bad, that was one of my, bad instances. And as a teenager, something mildly like that happened where it was like, it was like a summer break where I was hanging out with the wrong kids, I guess, somehow. I don't even know how this happened. And, it was the same thing. You're just getting into dumb stuff. I'm like, why? What is the point of this? Like, how did I even, develop this friendship, or I don't even know what you call that, friendship or whatever. I think it was like a sport that we played in the summer that no one else played. I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you. But it was the same thing. It was like quickly going in the wrong direction. I'm talking about like I nipped it in the butt within a week or two.
Okay.
Like it was that noticeable.
Good for you.
Well, I had something like that in high school, sort of. Like, it was like, I forget, I can't remember if it might have been junior year. Well, the same thing. It was like, I never, like, cut class. I never did anything like that. But for some reason, there was, like, 3 or 4 kids, like, I met that year for some reason.
Not only did you cut class, but you cut your kneecaps out your jeans.
Exactly. Yeah. Wearing Jenko jeans and everything. But
There's no doubt you
but,
did.
You definitely started hacking.
But no,
sacking.
like, for some reason, like, it was funny. It's like a couple times, like, it was for some reason, like, a couple classes during the day. It was like I could somehow get away with it, whatever it was. But there was times where like my lab report went to class and I didn't. I'm like, oh, I guess my friend. But it was like, it was the same thing. It was like, it was maybe like 3-4 weeks, and I was like, that was the end of it. Like, I don't know why I was
Yeah.
hanging out with them for some reason, and then all of a sudden it
Yeah.
just like stopped. Like,
Or
it
how
just
it
didn't happen
happened.
anymore. But it was like similar things. Like, yeah, those some things usually like they boil to a head and they're finished real quick. At the same
Sure.
time.
Yeah, I mean, and the opposite happened to me too. I exploded off a couple of relationships that were positively impacted my life, that I catapulted in the complete opposite direction in a really good way. So it's very interesting. And that was literally based on the surroundings. They say you are who you hang out with or whatever. It becomes very true once you stop, or you could realize it, I guess, once you get out of your little average group and then try like a new group to see how you interact or whatever, and you'll see instant change because you're not comfortable. You don't
Yeah.
understand. There's a different language. Sometimes we could be in a group and no one's even saying nothing and we all understand each other, right?
Yeah.
You can't get like that with every group.
Osmosis? No?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's actually
Very good.
Sure.
good job. Good job.
All right, you know what? You're gonna get a cookie after this.
Yeah.
Maybe a donut.
That's how we pay heck with cookies.
I love cookies.
So how do you tell? So let's just say you notice your child like acting different and being like rambunctious or just out of the norm, and you kind of figure out it might be the people that they're hanging out with. How do you handle that?
You choose who to hang out with. As a parent of somebody who's 7, you choose who to hang out with. You do the vetting as a parent, not only as the child, but you kind of vet the parents out at the same time. You talk to them, start building a relationship with the parents, and you figure out like, okay, could I leave my kid with this person?
Yeah.
So you choose. You don't allow them to choose at this point.
Yeah.
You say, okay, yes and or no. That's it.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. That's how.
Well,
it
at
is.
7 too.
Yeah, at 7, yes,
Yeah.
at 7. So hopefully, at that point, they've built a relationship long enough and have sustained a relationship long enough to go, into high school together, and there's just one big group, kumbaya. That's what
Right.
I'm hoping. I mean, I'm not saying it go left or right.
But at the
here. I want it to
same
go that
time,
way.
you also want a diverse kid, right?
yeah,
Because we got bamboozled when we went to Temple. And Bristol was infamous for just us being with our own little group and knowing our own little
Sure.
thing. And when we got to Temple, I'm sorry, but I just speak for myself. I just said, I got bamboozled and culture shocked. It was a totally different world out there than that I knew anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the same goes for me. That we're different. I spoke to them differently, and they spoke to me like what? And they looked at me when I spoke to them. You know, breaking stones was one thing, but you know,
Yeah,
that was
you
just
remember
my
that?
that was my natural speech.
We were sarcastic how we are. People describe us as, you know, the guys in Bristol, you know, it was just like they're sharp with their tongues and stuff like that, whatever. Well, you take that over there, they're looking at you like, yeah, they're offended. Like, they're just there, like, all right, dude. And just like literally walk away from you. It was like, we had to build up to getting to now you can, you know, bust each other's chops and stuff like that. Literally, you want to talk about some awkward moments,
Yeah.
like offended. And we're like, oh, okay, never mind. It's not as fast paced as I thought that was going to be. That didn't jive. Yeah, no, and I'm serious. And then, I don't
turkey
know.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I do agree with that to an extent because I feel you have to cultivate that kind of, you know, that good nature for them to be around. And yeah, of course, we want them to be, you know, well-rounded individuals and, you know, expand their horizons with, you know, things. But at the same time, you're building the foundation. This is the base
Right.
still. That is what college is for you to get basically bamboozled. I don't know if you want to get bamboozled to the extent that we did, but
No, it's good though. I mean, it teaches
Yeah.
it teaches you. You figured out who you wanted to hang out with, who you needed to hang out with on your own, and that's what you want. That's what you want to kind of happen. It happens naturally.
well, we didn't know any better either.
Right. Well, but yeah, as you grow older, and you said like, well, you want them to be cultured, and I was like, oh, you're right. You know, real quick.
Well, yeah, because okay, so a perfect example is some of the schools that these guys came from are wealthy schools. So like perfect examples, like they had rowing and tennis, and like that. That's I know this sounds obnoxious to some people who aren't you know into the you know the sports thing, but it's the easiest example. They are exposed to things that we weren't, and it's still us playing a sport. We just didn't have that just opportunity wasn't there. This has nothing to do with Bristol. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
It's beyond sports though too. It's other things that they were saying, and I'm like, man, you guys already experienced that. I'm like thinking in the back of my mind, you know, some of these guys traveled all over the place. You know what I mean? And obviously that has nothing to do with a school you go to per se. So to wrap up the whole kid thing, okay,
Kids.
going back to what Manny's saying and what I'm trying to put together here was it is our responsibility to cultivate that, you know, environment that they are until hopefully that one day they can, you know, have the base of what we gave them, make their own judgments on these are the
Right.
good people I should hang out, these are the bad people. Because I feel like when we grew up, that was made very clear to us. You know what I mean?
Who's bad,
Which was
who's not.
surprising to me when I went to Temple. Not actually, at first look, it'd be surprising. Like, oh, you hung out with those kind of people. You know better. You did. But when you didn't get necessarily a taste of it, a real taste of it, you kind of wanted to test the waters yourself to like, all right, let's make sure, you know, the knowledge that was dropped down to me,
Yeah.
let's test it. You know what I mean? It's like back testing just to make certain. And yeah, that was very true what was, you know, said to us, but toxic people. All right. And for the last part, let's just say you have one of your best friends is in a toxic relationship. Do you tell them? Do you warn them? How far do you let it go until you say something? Do you talk to them less and grow apart? Does it all depend on the person your friend is? And could it be a phase?
But I think some of that goes back to kind of what Manny said at the beginning. It's like they're not going to realize it, and they may think you're criticizing them if you're saying, oh, you're
Yeah.
attacking relation. They might be thinking, oh, why are you attacking this person?
You jelly?
I just said,
It could be all of it. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to view all of it. Make sure that's what before you step in and say something. It could be a phase.
I just say Ponte Vix.
Exactly. But yeah, no, yeah, Goose, you're right. And I think that was the point I was trying to make when I put that. It's all of it. So it's delicate too. Like you don't know. Like they might actually, what Gabe was saying, not see it, and then it's delicate in a sense because they actually formed a strong relationship with this person. Although it might be toxic,
Yeah.
it's a strong bond. So when you say something,
You could chime in there, but you don't want to go
Exactly.
in there too hard where then you become toxic with them.
for them, yeah, and then they're all constantly talking to you, and they feel like they're in defense mode.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like people tell somebody they shouldn't do something, they're gonna grab onto that more.
Right. Well, that's what I just said. When I went
Yeah.
to Temple, I just wanted to just do it just because I was always told not to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, testing the
Testing.
waters or whatever.
1, 2.
But yeah, and it's true. You got to depend on, or you got to understand who that person is. You got to know your own boundaries. Is it, in your right to say something? You know that person. If they're your good friend anyway.
Exactly.
If it's just a random person, obviously, like we always talk about, the unsolicited advice is never going to land well with anybody.
But but if you if anything, if it's truly a toxic thing, it'll come about eventually anyway, and they'll see the light of what it is. as
Right,
opposed
you
to
can like virtually, the way you unfollow
virtually
somebody,
through Facebook.
like, oh yeah, I still got your number. Yeah, I'll shoot you a text.
Yeah.
But you don't
I'll send you
ever.
an email.
You guys can still do that. Like that's still real life. Like you're not playing the person. You're
Yeah.
like, I do still have your number. I could potentially text you if I ever want to hang out with you. But you don't have to be as harsh as I mean, I don't know.
Get out of my face.
Yeah.
So I don't have friends.
All right, so with that, we're going to end the episode with these two quotes, one from John Mark Green and Yvonne Pierre. So the first one from John Mark Green: toxic people attach themselves like cinder blocks tied to your ankles and then invite you in for a swim for their poisoned water.
Nice.
Sorry. Wow, another descriptive
very.
way of looking at that. And then the one from Yvonne Pierre: don't let toxic people infect you with the fear of giving and receiving one of the most powerful forces in the world, love. Okay, Yvonne,
Beautiful.
thanks.
That was a little soft.
Yeah, it was a nice way to end this
End it
harsh,
harsh.
toxic topic. All right, so in this episode, Toxic Friendships, we discussed the topic of toxic friendships, the signs you look for to determine you are in a toxic friendship, our personal experiences with toxic people, social media toxicity, and our recommendations to people involved in a toxic relationship. We wrap the episode up with quotes from John Mark Green and Yvonne Pierre. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.